I examined the logic of powerful people, and in doing this work, I found that reasoning typically falls somewhere within this quadrant. The first axis runs brilliant to idiotic. The second, innovative to fraud. But the logic of this guy, well, it's different.
The biggest hoax in history happened, and that was to trick people into believing that their God-given right to heal themselves is actually the disease. So I think the best way is to look at nature. You don't see nothing in nature getting sick and taking pharmaceuticals. And the biggest one is cancer. Cancer is one of the most peculiar gifts on earth. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never seen one person die of cancer. I've seen people die of the allopathic treatment of cancer.
The doctor here is a popular herbalist, and after watching this interview far too many times, I can tell you he's at least brilliant. Now, I know what you're thinking. This looks like a podcast. It's not. Your eyes deceive you. Really, he's giving a business pitch. And like any good business, you've got a problem, he's got a solution. What's different, in order for this business to work, he first must explode some deeply rooted notions of that problem.
People think cancer is this big disease when cancer is the body's healing mechanism.
Whoa, is that true? What if he's right? I mean, the comment section is in love with this guy.
So proud of these kings.
Is this the innovator we've all been waiting for who can finally disrupt the cancer? Nope. I'm not going to do that to you. This guy is not an innovator, at least not when it comes to cancer, and I'm going to prove it to you. But first, I have a message for the doctor. Hello, doctor. You said some things on that podcast that, to be honest, I took personally. Doctor, as you well know, for any one of us, take enough trips around the sun and eventually cancer is going to touch your life. Whether it's us personally or someone we care about. For me, that person was my mom. My mom was a nurse. She loved talking about medical stuff, and I suppose she shared that passion with me. And as I watched cancer take her life, I realized, no, cancer sucks. So doctor, after I heard your words on cancer and also witnessed people accept those words, well, none of that's okay. So here's the deal. Doctor, I'm not going to say your name and I'm not going to mention your business because I can see you're trying to help your community and I want you to be successful. I want you to sell your bitters, your herb pills, and your vagina steams. I want you to sell millions of them, but you need to stop talking about cancer because your words are powerful and you're going to get someone hurt. Okay, to be clear, this video is not about cancer. It is about the logic of the doctor and the three things that he does so well. The first thing is he creates wildly compelling and attention-grabbing ideas like this.
Cancer is a healing mechanism,
which is also the conclusion we will be examining. The second is, I'll give it to him, he creates really effective arguments, which I will be visualizing in this video. And most importantly, the third thing is how he firms up that argument by taking a series of cognitive biases that lay dormant in his audience, switching them on so they all add up to a powerful in-group, out-group identity system that's really effective, that helps him build a 1 million follower Instagram channel and get people to believe really wrong ideas. Listen, I am not even remotely qualified to fact check him on cancer, but the beauty of logic is that doesn't really matter because proper reasoning is universal to all fields. In this episode of Logic Instant Replay, I'm going to slow things down, visualize his logic, put names to his tactics, and then grade his logic and rank him in the bad logic hall of shame. Because the doctor is saying some things about cancer that is being heard by our most vulnerable people, and that's not cool. So, let's examine his logic. This channel is about fortifying our minds against exploitation from manipulative reasoning. So it only makes sense to also guard against exploitation of our technology from bad actors on the internet. That's why I'm excited to work with today's sponsor, NordVPN. VPN defends your internet connection by encrypting your traffic and routing it through a secure server, which means with one click, hackers, advertisers, or that shady guy on public Wi-Fi can't see your private information. I've used Nord for 4 or 5 years now, and I've watched it become way more than a VPN. With Nord, you get a password protection tool. Also, it monitors the dark web, and if it sees your personal information show up there, it lets you know. And maybe the best thing is this new tool called threat protection. Even if you're not connected to the VPN, threat protection still keeps working to block malware, phishing scams. It even blocks pop-up ads. That's the security side. But Nord also has a fun side, like unlocking content all around the world. The other day I wanted to watch a specific movie. Naturally, it wasn't streaming in the US, but after a little sleuthing, I found it was streaming on Prime in France. With Nord, I changed my location with one click. Boom, I'm watching the movie. Vive la France. If you'd like this ability while taking control of your online security, you can go to nordvpn.com/framinglogic. The link for that is below in the description. And when you sign up using that link, you'll not only support this channel, but you'll get NordVPN for 2 years plus 4 extra months for free. Try it worry-free, because if you don't like it, you can get your money back within 30 days if you're not satisfied. That's a pretty good deal, and it will help me create more Logic Instant Replays. Okay, let's begin by watching his full argument. I will visualize his premises as we go.
The biggest hoax in history happened, and that was to trick people into believing that their God-given right and their God-given abilities to heal themselves is actually the disease. And the biggest one is cancer. Cancer is one of the most peculiar gifts on earth, but we have been taught that it kills everybody. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never seen one person die of cancer. I've seen people die of the allopathic treatment of cancer using, the chemotherapies and the radiations and things like that, but I haven't seen somebody naturally die of cancer. But when you look at the physiology and the anatomy and just of what's really going on, it's your body healing itself. When you look at cancer, they talk about a tumor. When you look at a tumor is like a human trash bag. And what it does is the body is so unique and the body is so special that it will create this fleshly trash bag and put all the toxins from the bloodstream into it. So it go through a process called angiogenesis, where it will grow its own bloodstream. It'll grow its own blood vessels to get blood to keep growing, for you can keep stuffing trash inside of this fleshly trash bag. And then it will grow until you change your diet, until you fast, until you take herbs, until you heal.
Okay, we've been witnessing his first rhetorical device. This guy can yap, and he uses that as a weapon. He hits us with idea after idea in quick succession. The rhetorical device is very invisible. It's called gish galloping. Basically, he can talk faster than we can think. He says something like, the tumor engages in angiogenesis, and naturally our mind cranks to understand that. But before that cranking is resolved, he's moved on to a different thing. To keep up, our minds have to abandon the first thing we were cranking on, leaving it unresolved. Because we don't resolve that thing, he basically wins that argument, and then he just repeats that, does it again and again. In order to combat gish galloping, you really just have to be like, whoa, pause. Let's take this one at a time.
And this is what I've been asking all of my professors at school. If cancer is a disease, then why can a man, not a female, but a man that get a tumor, test positive on a pregnancy test? We know that men can't get pregnant, right? But why is this man testing positive for pregnancy when he got a tumor? Why is a tumor is the exact same identification as the placenta? The placenta is created because the body lacks oxygen, and the baby want to make sure it secures oxygen and secures phytonutrients for it can grow throughout its embryonic process. Same thing a tumor do. A tumor grows when the body is in a state of hypoxia, when the body doesn't have oxygen. Well, that's the same exact thing that a placenta go through. Placentas go through what you would call angiogenesis, just like a tumor. Right. And then you have something called immune privileged cells. Immune privileged cells mean that the immune system will look at something wrong with the cell and just bypass it. It'll give it a pass. In pregnancy, immune privileged cells are eye cells and brain cells. Tell me why tumor cells release the same things and they get those same immune privileged type of capabilities. If a tumor and cancer is bad for the body, then why is my immune system seeing these mutations and allowing it to happen if it's not supposed to happen because I'm full of toxins? So when you start really looking at cancer, cancer is a healing mechanism. Cancer is our friend, it's not our enemy. Same thing with all these other so-called diseases. If somebody just sit back and look at the physiology, you'll start seeing that our body was made to heal itself, and we have just been tricked and bamboozled into these symptomologies being disease when it's actually a healing mechanism.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. Okay, the goal of a logic instant replay, like an instant replay in sports, is to slow things down so we can visualize exactly how the logic is working. We do this using the CLEAR method. C is for conclusion, which we have already seen. This is our North Star, and everything we are about to do is directed towards this conclusion. L is for labels. We already know that cancer is an important term for this argument. E is for evidence. We've already established his premises. R is for review, where we will score his logic, but first we need to get data to score that logic, and that's A. A is for assess. Let's do that now. But first, real quick, a few disclaimers. This video is not an attack on herbalism. And this is not a faultless defense about mainstream medicine, which is not perfect. One of his overarching fallacies is this false binary. His argument is exclusive to herbalism, where it could be adjunctive to both. But my reasoning is based on the assumption that the science of mainstream medicine is legit. I have linked my research below. Okay, let's review his logic.
I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never seen one person die of cancer.
Evidence 1, he's never seen it. Here's a question. How does this work? I think a couple things. First, it works when no one calls him on his bullshit. That's about to end. Second, he's built this trust with his audience over years through storytelling like this. This is an anecdotal fallacy. It's personal, it's vivid, it's emotional, and because it's those things, one single story can become representative as a whole. This is also an argument from incredulity, which is the fallacy of dismissing a claim simply because you can't believe that it can possibly be true. He's never seen someone die of cancer, so how can that be possible? Here's an example from my life. I personally do not believe in narwhals. Think about it. Unicorn whales? That's stupid. Plus, I've never seen one, so they're not real. And it's definitely not because I'm egotistical, and what constitutes reality is only what I've seen.
I've seen people die of the allopathic treatment of cancer using, the chemotherapies and the radiations and things like that, but I haven't seen somebody naturally die of cancer.
Really, allopathic treatment kills. By the way, what is allopathic? It is what homeopathic healers call mainstream medicine to insult it. Now, that's no way to start a conversation. This error is a bit more reasonable than the prior one. This is a fallacy called after this, therefore because of this. It's assuming that one event caused another simply because the first happened before the second. This comes from the correlation causation group of fallacies. Here's an example. You go to a car mechanic. You're going to find a lot of broken cars. But is it the mechanic that's doing the damage? You go to a hospital. You see a lot of sick people. Some of them are passing. Is it the doctor that is doing the damage? He thinks the answer is yes. Let's take a moment and consider the implications of his logic that people don't die from cancer, they die from allopathic treatment. In 2023, the CDC said that 600,000 people died from cancer in the US. Is he implying that in 2023, doctors murdered 600,000 people? If that's the case, buddy, we got a way bigger problem than cancer. Maybe stop worrying about men getting fake pregnant and start bringing these murder doctors to justice. This premise is much more palatable if you believe that doctors are the villains. Like, you just can't say something this dumb and expect it to work without activating this anti-authority bias in his audience. This bias inverts who we're supposed to trust, steals away that trust and redirects it towards him and this identity-based community that he's creating. It is super effective. This nice added benefit of the anti-authority bias is when your YouTube channel gets shut down like his did, it's not because you're spreading pseudoscientific nonsense, it's because they are coming for you. Okay, logic score 9,000. Let's tally these up. For premise 1, I'm counting 3 logical fallacies, 1 cognitive bias, and 1 rhetorical device in the Gish Gallop. Oh, yes, thank you for the reminder. Last time I forgot. I want to give a special thank you to these supporters on Patreon. If you like this work and want to help me create more Logic Instant Replays, then you can become a paid member over on Patreon. The link for Patreon is below in the description.
When you look at a tumor is like a human trash bag. And what it does is the body is so unique and the body is so special that it will create this fleshly trash bag and put all the toxins from the bloodstream into it.
He argues the body purposefully creates a tumor with the intent to collect toxins. His error here is a false analogy fallacy. False analogies are deceptive because comparing two things like this is really visually effective and impactful, but we don't even need science to see why this is false. We can just ask a few questions. Okay, a tumor is a trash bag for toxins, so who's going to take out the trash? You and I both know that trash ain't going to take itself out. Oh, or does the tumor also grow a disposal system to actually get rid of the toxins? Now you're just describing a whole new organ. And it's at this point that the liver is like, what am I, chopped liver? We already have that organ already. Liver, kidneys, immune system, all collect and dispose of toxins. And that's not even to mention the body's most famous system for taking out the trash. That's a false analogy. Here's just an analogy. A tumor is like an evil trash bag. A trash bag that doesn't collect trash, but creates trash right out of thin air, endlessly, pumping out more and more and more trash until it fills up the entire room with so much trash, it chokes out your cat. Except the cat in this analogy is your brain.
If a tumor and cancer is bad for the body, then why is my immune system seeing these mutations and allowing it to happen if it's not supposed to happen because I'm full of toxins?
Let's talk a little bit about cognitive biases. We are born into this world with hundreds of cognitive biases pre-programmed into our brain. But of course, they're not all raging at once. Instead, someone like the good doctor here knows how to push the right buttons to wake up a cognitive bias to use to his own advantage. Right here, he's using one that is foundational to a lot of homeopathy, and that is the appeal to nature bias, which basically says things that are natural have a superseding quality over other evidence.
When plants get sick, they go to nature. When a dog gets sick, the first thing a dog do is fast. It don't eat anything, and then it eat grass or what you would call herbs for it can make itself throw up.
Yeah, I'd hate to be his dog, because it sounds like anytime his dog shows any sign of sickness, he's like, you're cut off! Appeal to nature is this form of circular reasoning. Nature is good, the body is natural, tumors happen inside the body, therefore tumors are natural. There's no actual evidence, it's just looping back on itself.
And this is what I've been asking all of my professors at school. If cancer is a disease, then why can a man, not a female, but a man that get a tumor, test positive on a pregnancy test? We know that men can't get pregnant,
Right.
But why is this man testing positive for pregnancy when he got a tumor?
Okay, we're about to learn a lot about the doctor. So he asks his professors why this male pregnancy thing is happening, but they don't know. We know a lot about cancer, but the male pregnancy thing is a gap in our understanding. So his logic works by taking this gap and filling it with his answer. We call this error in reasoning a God in the gaps fallacy. Here's a classic example of God in the gaps. We don't know how the pyramids were built, so it must have been aliens and not Egyptians. The God in the gaps fallacy is so effective because of the nature of how ignorance works in the human mind. Ignorance in our minds is not simply a void, but it's a magnet that hungrily attracts answers to fill up that void. So then it becomes easy to fill that gap with pretty much anything. It's a cheat code. It just works. Here's the second thing this tells us. You may be surprised to hear this, but we do understand why men test positive for pregnancy tests. There's no gap in the understanding. Just this one time, I'm gonna break my rule. Let's play doctor. I want you to take a wild guess on what type of cancer will make it possible for a man to elicit a positive pregnancy test. Do you have a guess? Don't think about it too hard. It's testicular cancer. Yes, that's right. The part of the male body that creates the most male hormone gets a cancer, and then it starts malfunctioning. Shocking! And here's the third thing this tells us. I interpreted his argument that this male pregnancy thing happens with cancer in general. No. There are 100 plus forms of cancer that will never and can never elicit a positive male pregnancy test. This is cherry picking. It is completely misrepresenting the male pregnancy test thing to support his argument. Also, this is a non sequitur. There is no reasonable inference connecting males testing positive for pregnancy and anything good. Am I missing something? Oh, my testicles are riddled with tumors, so now I finally have a reason to go out and buy that pregnancy test. Another way to look at this is a bare assertion fallacy, or the act of claiming something true without offering any evidence or justification whatsoever. You can't just throw something like this out there and just expect it to be self-evidently true. Okay, LS9, let's check in. I count 6 fallacies, 1 cognitive bias. I know, and we're only now getting to the good stuff. Hey, if you like logic, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like, and share it with someone who may get a kick out of this video. It helps a lot. Quick reminder, here's our conclusion. Cancer is a healing mechanism.
Why is my immune system seeing these mutations and allowing it to happen if it's not supposed to happen because I'm full of toxins?
Logic is like a machine. Each and every part needs to be able to work together in concert in order for the whole to work. What I'm basically describing is argument strength, which we will score soon. And here we see a small but critical component hidden within his logic called a framing device. Let's visualize exactly how this is working. This is the chain of cause and effect according to the doctor. Bad diet adds toxins, too many toxins collect in the body, but in order to heal, the body creates a tumor. The tumor collects toxins like a trash bag. This right here is the important part. He frames cancer as a tumor-toxins relationship. The problem is this is not accurate, and he brushes over the real, most important part, and that is mutation. I'll give it to him for even saying the word. This is the only time in his entire argument that he mentions anything remotely close to this. Tumors do not grow in reaction to toxins. Tumors grow when genetic mutations occur, which make cell creation go haywire. They create too many cells, cells don't die, it's all out of control. Recall my evil trash bag analogy. But none of this gets into his argument. So this moment right here is so important because right here at this logical fork in the road, this framing device, we take a wrong turn and we go down this path and everything's about toxins. We're thinking about toxins. We're talking toxins. Tumors are reactions to toxins. You get rid of cancer by eliminating toxins. You get rid of toxins by consuming herbs. It's this route that leads us to buying his herb products. This route drops us off at a place where it makes 0 sense to buy herb products because on this route, it isn't about toxins. It's about mutations. So this is the danger of a framing device. So now it's easy to see why early diagnosis of bad logic is so important. Premise 3. You have the choice to beat cancer. This is probably his most important premise. Now, as you may have noticed, the doctor has not actually said these words. And that is because this is the point in the argument where the United States government leans in and takes a special interest. Now, why would it do that? Well, that's because he's not actually allowed to give medical advice because he's not a certified medical professional. Now, if that's confusing because for the duration of this video, I've been calling him a doctor, he's not actually a doctor. He's not actually one of those PhD doctors either. It's an honorific title, which you'll see if you go to his website. If you go there and you're still confused by all that imagery, at this point it's your fault because find your way to his disclaimer page, it becomes perfectly clear that it's an honorific. I'm choosing to call him a doctor because it's fun. It's basically illegal for him to say the words, "You have the choice to beat cancer." So, how do you say this without saying it? Because he has to say it in order for his whole business to work. Premise 3 is an implicit premise, which is not an error in reasoning. It's just not as clear as saying it explicitly. Here's how the logic of his implicit premise works. These are 6 explicit statements that the doctor did make. I would draw your attention to number 3 there, where he implicitly says that tumors will stop growing when you change what you eat, you fast, and you take herbs. And number 6, implicit statement, take herbs to get rid of toxins that feed the tumors. He doesn't say it, but he says it. If the framing device we spoke about is the fork in the road that structurally points people in the direction of his product, then this right here is the energy that propels them down that road. And this energy comes from another cognitive bias he's activating, the illusion of control. And this is the cognitive bias where he makes his money. You know, we humans are really good at overestimating our ability to control the outcome of things. This is another way of saying hope. Cognitive biases are evolutionarily based, so it's not difficult to see why having hope is a positive evolutionary adaptation. Life is hard. It's helpful to have some irrational thing in our brains keeping us going on. So now think about it in the context of cancer. Someone gets the worst news of their life. It's cancer. For those of us that are lucky enough to muster the strength to go on, that's a powerful energy. And this framing device is the moment in the logical train where he captures them. He says, hey, don't go that way. Chemo kills. Come with me this way. We're going to fast. We're going to change our diet. And for those of you who happen to choose herbs, he just happens to have a whole line of herbal products. And before you ask, no, these are not covered by health insurance. Even a $105 liver detox bundle is still cheaper than going to the doctor.
The biggest hoax in history happened, and that was to trick people into believing that their God-given right and their God-given abilities to heal themselves is actually the disease.
Biggest hoax. I guess if that's true, it'd be a pretty big hoax. If you're not going to use science to explain cancer, use storytelling. This is a appeal to conspiracy fallacy. Just a quick logic note. Anytime you hear the word appeal within a fallacy name, it's a code word for peeling away. Think of it as peeling away from the logic you're supposed to be looking at and redirecting your attention to something that they want you to be looking at. It's like forcibly moving someone's head away from looking at bad logic towards what he wants you to look at, and that is this hoax conspiracy. How cancer actually works is scary. You can't really control a mutation, so instead he blames a conspiracy of doctors. Sure thing. Oh, God, I mean, like, this is the kind of shit that gives real conspiracies a bad name. So we know who the villains are, doctors, naturally. But every good story needs a good guy. So this time he's appealing to God. Peel us away from his bad logic, redirect our heads towards God. It's never a bad idea to have God on your side. So check this out. When I'm examining logic, I'll do this exercise where I take the quote like this and I simplify it as much as I can to get to the essential meaning. When I translated it, I got this. In violation of God's word, mainstream medicine has conspired to trick us to believe that cancer is deadly, when in actuality, cancer is here to improve our health. First off, what? But then it occurred to me that I hadn't gotten to the true essence of this quote. Here's what he's really saying. If you believe in God, then believe in me. Arguing that cancer is a healing mechanism is so unhinged that he has to appeal to God. Okay, I'm seeing one cognitive bias, two logical fallacies. Yeah. LS9, you are going to love this next one. It's probably my favorite fallacy.
Same thing with all these other so-called diseases. If somebody just sit back and look at the physiology, you will start saying that our body was made to heal itself, and we have just been tricked and bamboozled into these symptomologies being disease when it's actually a healing mechanism.
Wow. This is why I like this guy. Finally, someone has the bravery to ask the question that no one else is asking. When is someone going to just sit back and look at cancer? I mean, we've known about cancer now for literally thousands of years. When is someone going to just sit back and look? Last year, there was 2 million new cases of cancer. When is someone going to research that? I'm looking at you, National Cancer Institute. You already have 73 NCI centers across the United States that employ an estimated 65 to 70,000 doctors, scientists, nurses, technicians, staff directly involved in cancer research. Granted, that number does not include private institutions, or let alone the cancer research done across the world, which could probably add up to hundreds of thousands of people. But when are those people going to just sit back and look at the physiology of cancer? It's a fair question. In logic, just as important as what you do say is what you do not say. His failure in reasoning here is an error of omission. Tens of thousands of people are looking. This is obscene. How do you explain this? Remember, this isn't a podcast. This is a business pitch. And a good business model needs a few things. A problem, cancer, check. Urgency, oh, you got cancer? Tick-tock, tick-tock, check. Trust, he's working on that. And finally, you need scarcity. Those 70,000 people at the NCI are not looking at the physiology, but he is. So how can anyone get off in saying this.
Well, God just chose me to be the beacon and the leader of this movement for my generation.
God chose you. Good for you. Is this a Messiah complex? Either way, it's that confidence that we love on this channel. I wish I had that kind of confidence. Having confidence like that activates another bias in our brain, and that is authority bias. If you recall premise 1,
I've never seen one person die of cancer.
how do you get away with saying that? Because authority bias like that just operates on a different frequency. It hits hard. People believe it. Say things with enough confidence, people are going to believe you. Say things with enough perceived authority, and people are going to believe you. All right, let's tally up the scores. Up until now, all the work that we have been doing is done in order to collect the necessary information needed to boil down his logic to one single metric, and that is cogency, which is the information, the premises, the argument, all combined into one concept. That's going to require a lot of data, but thankfully I have the logic score 9,000 here. And once we have that, we can then rank the doctor in the bad logic hall of shame. LS9, I'm grateful to have you by my side. Let's begin with the most basic elements, and that is labels and terminology. The first and most important term is cancer. Cancer is 100 plus different unique diseases, each with their own causes, but he uses the word cancer as if it's one thing. It's not cancer that elicits a positive pregnancy test in men, it's testicular cancer. So he is not legally permitted to give medical advice. So instead he uses terms like toxins, cleanse, opening healing pathways. Why? Because these are not medical terms. These are marketing terms. Anytime you hear a health person use the word toxic, it should be a big red flag. All right, scoring these categories, you begin at a perfect score and get knocked down based on strikes. His language does not clarify, it confuses. I am going to give him a 4. Okay, basic facts. So is what he said true? I'm looking at foundational facts that he builds his argument upon. Cancer is not a healing mechanism. Worldwide, roughly 10 million people die of cancer every year. I've never seen one person die of cancer. Maybe your eyes were closed. A tumor is a trash bag for toxin. Not true. Cancer is not a toxin thing. It's a mutation thing. Wow. There's a major untruth connected to every sentence of this argument. I'm going to give him a 1. Sometimes the only thing more important than what you do say is what you do not say. So from what he left out, how does that change the argument? One thing he conspicuously omits is metastasis, or when the cancer from one part of the body spreads to another part. Like you have liver cancer and then it metastasizes to your brain. Ooh, does that mean my brain is now going to get detoxified? That's something my brain needs anyway. He omits roughly 70,000 people working on cancer research right now in the US alone. He omits the 90% plus of cancer that have nothing to do with your diet. He doesn't talk about those because they don't fit into his silly cure. There's just so many important parts of this that are omitted. Omission Score 3. Contamination review. When I check for contamination, I use another acronym called FROSCUM. His main argument consisted of 45 sentences, of which I counted at least 11 logical fallacies, which is a new Logic Instant Replay record. If you'd like to check out the rest of the playlist. His cherry picking is atrocious. Never seen someone die of cancer? The God of the Gaps fallacy really pervades his entire argument. Geez, curing cancer is hard. We don't know what to do. Here, take this herb pill. It'll do the trick. Will it? There's this formal fallacy of structure that pervades his entire argument. Cancer is a healing mechanism. Cancer is our friend, but we got to take herbs to get rid of it. That's contradictory. Which is it, guy? There's the Gish Gallop. Dude is good at using science words. I'll give him that. Let's just recognize that his whole argument is based on reframing that a disease is a gift. That works because we fetishize revisionism. You thought cancer was a killer? Well, buckle up, buckaroo. I'm about to blow your mind. Plot twist. Did you know that doctors are actually the bad guys? So many cognitive biases. Appeal to nature is the super important one. Another bias that I didn't talk about is the just world bias, with the assumption that the world is inherently fair. Like if you do the right thing, the good thing is going to happen to you. It's insidious because it moralizes sickness, and if you can't beat it, then it blames the victim. But, oh God, it's shitty. 11 logical fallacies. That is so many cognitive biases, I've lost track. The framing device is just like, the contamination is 10, not even close. Obviously, his whole business is selling herbal products. Does that mean his argument suffers from motivated reasoning? If he believes truly that God chose him, you can understand how that affects his reasoning. God chose you to be a beacon. This is how God chose you? That's a weird beacon, man. Meta bias, 6. Now, what about the quality of each of the individual premises? These are the qualities that make up a good premise. So premise 1, people don't die of cancer. 0 evidence for that, just based on his authority that he's leveraging. Premise 2, cancer is natural and good. Lots of evidence. None of it's grounded in any research. Lots of science words. It's weakened by this non sequitur, the male pregnancy thing. Premise 3, you have the choice to beat cancer. It's an implicit premise because he can't legally say it. Premise 4, is a shadow behind one huge omission. Are the premises true? No. Are they clear? Yeah, sure. Are they well-grounded in evidence? Heck no. Are they relevant to the conclusion? Definitely. Are they logically clear with no logical contaminations? Absolutely not. As I assess these premises, I'm looking at each one individually. They are very, very poorly grounded. Their logic is supported by a lot of cognitive biases, if only cognitive biases, because the evidence is terrible. Like, people don't die of cancer. Like, how can you get away with that? I'm going to give them a 5 for premise quality. Strength of argument is about all these boxes collectively working together to support the conclusion. We've already decided that the premises are like a trash bag. Actually, no, that's a bad analogy. His premises are trash. Ideally, there is this logical flow to his premises that is consistent, but his argument is based off of this structural fallacy that cancer is a healing mechanism, but also we need to get rid of cancer. It's totally incoherent. Or do we want just the right amount of cancer? So how do these 4 premises work together? How do I say this? They are supportive of the conclusion in spirit. The framing device about the toxins is pretty consistent in the kind of stuff that you actually want to create a good, strong argument. They don't have that. Argument strength, 3. Thanks again to NordVPN. If you'd like to secure your internet, check out the link below in the description to get 4 months free with your NordVPN plan. Okay, this is the moment of truth. We have the data we need to calculate cogency. All I need to do is press this button. Wow, yikes. Yeah, it's really bad. I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting something really bad. Why does this resonate with people? His logic is bad, but his usage of cognitive bias is really good. Okay, so there's nothing else for me to do other than rank him in the bad logic hall of shame. Wow, worse than Jordan Peterson. That's an accomplishment. Okay, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Again, I want to thank my Patreons. If you would like to support more Logic Instant Replays, check out the link below and become a Patreon. Where you can also find the argument map for this episode, as well as a blank argument map where you can do this exercise yourself. When you become a member, you'll get all my Logic infographics, like the How to Speak Logic infographic. There's many of them. I've forgotten some of them, but they're there. I said at one point I take this personally. I think a lot of people do, because cancer touches us all. Someone like my mom would not have fallen for this pseudoscience, but there's plenty of people that do. I know because I've seen it. And the risk is they miss the brief opportunity that they have to get the care that they can get. I like to think that medicine is the greatest science because it has the opportunity to improve the quality of life of people who would otherwise suffer. My mom got excellent treatment, but cancer is hard. So I dedicate this video to my mom. I hope I can do some good.